My computer just warned me that everything I say is being recorded.
It is indeed. You're now on the hook.
That's true all the time. You just didn't know it.
I think Tony just clicked it on is what happened. So, well, Mario, I'm glad you had a good lacrosse season.
Yeah, we're happy. And the good news is a lot of 8th graders.
There you
I
go.
love that.
Yeah.
Super. Okay, Matt Roth, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, good. Chick, hello.
Greetings.
Hey, Steve.
Hi.
Okay, we're going to wait a couple of seconds here, guys. We're still actually not 3:30. Appreciate everybody's last second. I guess in some parts of the state, they were really threatening bad storms. I don't think Cecil County's getting it, but maybe.
That's okay. I'm happy to miss that kind of storm.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I have the kids here, by the way, in that sense. I picked them up from daycare so they could be home during the storm. And now
Woohoo.
it's sunny. So if I start screaming at children, please understand why.
You mean like you usually scream at everybody on the BDC?
I'm sure it'll be a warm-hearted scream, if anything.
All right, Tony, let me see. I got Matt, I got Jim Reynolds coming on. That's 2, Chick 3, Sandra 4, Mario 5, Dave Rudolph 6, Joe Brandt 7. Okay, so we've got a quorum for our meeting. Can you hear it? Jim's still connected.
We got Bridget and Tom coming in now. All right.
Tony, make sure you have the voting members roll call there, Andy, so you can call the roll on votes. Because we have so many people not turning on their cameras, we are going to do a roll call vote today. So we hear from everybody approving.
You know, a question on that, Carl. I know for the MDTA, if you're a voting board member, you have to have your video on.
I think that I do believe once the October comes around, I think that might be the case, that everyone has to be viewed.
Unless there's some extenuating circumstance,
Right.
like driving somewhere or whatever, or you just have a bad signal and you lower your bandwidth by turning off your video.
I
Right.
see Roop nodding his head, so I think that's correct, right, Roop?
Yes, MDTA was always following the Open Meetings Act. And I think they had to follow the Open Meetings Act. And for us and some other instrumentalities, it won't begin till October. I mean, we have to follow certain of the statutes, but it's not the meat of the statute.
Okay. Tom Sadowski and Bridget Peters, welcome. Can you hear us?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Good to be here.
Thank you. I can hear
Okay.
you fine. Yep.
Okay, good. We're going to start. We may have some people join us, but I know, I'm glad everybody could juggle for the last second change and go virtual. And with that, okay, Tony, all of a sudden I thought we lost everybody.
No, I'm just
Agenda.
sharing my screen.
with that.
If anyone wants to follow it.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Tony, call the roll.
Carl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Mario,
Yes.
Sandra.
Sorry.
It's okay. Chick,
Aye.
Martha,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Jim. I just got a text from Jim. Dave,
Aye.
I think Jim's gonna have to call in. I think he had issues.
Okay, very good. Have no announcements today. You had the minutes that Tony sent you from the April meeting. I hope everyone had a chance to read the minutes.
I'll move
Is
for
there-
approval.
Okay,
I second.
okay, Tony, please call the roll.
Carl,
Yes,
Joe,
Yes.
Mario,
Yes.
Sandra,
aye,
Chick,
Aye.
Martha,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Dave.
Aye.
thank you all. We have 3 items under the financial report that Chick's going to report on today, and you can see it on there. And you'll see we'll need the treasurer's report will need an adoption. The audit engagement will need an adoption. Chick, are we going to move forward with the proposed FY23 budget today?
Yes.
Okay. Chick, you're on.
Okay, I'm going to speak first to the Bainbridge Development Corporation Consolidated Board Report. Colorful report that we speak to every meeting. I'll be quick. These show results through 10 months.
Excuse me, Chick. Tony, can you put that on the screen?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm trying to send the information to Jim. Here
Tell
we go.
Jim,
I'm
man. he
There we
sorry.
needs-
go. There we go.
Tell Jim he needs to get with the program. So this is our balance sheet as of the end of April, and no real change to our financial condition. We have $1,173,000 in cash. It's still deposited in the same places it was in previous months, and there are no restrictions on that cash. So we are nicely liquid, and certainly nicely liquid compared to where we were several years ago. So things there look good. We do have a receivable related to our ESCO work, and that offsets the payable you see lower there in that first column. So we're in good shape in terms of coverage there. The only other liability remains this $92,000 we've owed the state forever and ever. By mutual agreement, have continued to defer that. So no big changes on our balance sheet. For the month of April, we had no significant revenue. We didn't anticipate any. Our total expenses were $14,800. Our budget provided for expenses of $22,000. So we had a favorable variance of almost $8,000. As you look through those expenses, what might catch your eye is that we have actually a negative expense or a credit for utilities. And that's a transaction where we're being reimbursed for utility costs from MRP. So we've paid the bills and they're reimbursing us, and we had those funds to deposit that month. So for the month, our operating expenses really were less than they typically are. We had a little bit of ESCA activity, all of which was covered by funds as they come in. So nothing material there to talk about. Through 10 months, and I'm now over on the right side of the page, our actual revenues are $403,000 on a year-to-date basis. Obviously, almost all of that is our payment that comes in from our development partner. And our total expenses are $186,000. So if we were closing our books today, we'd have a surplus of $217,000. Our budget was to have a surplus of $93,000. And as is kind of our history, our expenses usually do not run as high as we provide for in the budget. Our budget is generally prepared for kind of on a worst case basis. And we are tracking to kind of close the year very similar, if not a little better than we have in previous years. So I think we remain in good shape. Our variances are all favorable. And Tony's doing a nice job of kind of running the office. Any questions there on our financial condition?
Anybody have any questions for Chick? Do I have a motion to accept the April treasurer's report?
So move.
I'll second Mario.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Tony?
Carl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yeah.
Mario,
Yes.
Sandra,
aye,
Chick,
Aye.
Martha,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Dave.
Aye.
Okay, Chick?
Okay, I think the second thing we have is approval of our audit engagement. We were notified by our prior auditor that they were not going to continue these services. So after a number of years of Wyrick Cronin, we had to go forth with an RFP to search for a new auditor. We sent a fairly detailed RFP to 7 different firms, followed up with a number of phone calls. We have 1 respondent to that exercise. I honestly thought we would have more. Not to get off on a tangent, but what I'm certainly seeing is a number of these audit companies are looking carefully at the profitability of these arrangements, the amount of time that it takes to meet new auditing requirements, and they're paring back the numbers of these small audits that they're doing. We were nonetheless pleased with the response that we got back from SB and Company, a very experienced regional firm. They have clients throughout, principally located throughout the eastern part of the United States, a lot of local clients. They do work for Washington, D.C., the city of Baltimore, Ocean City, Hagerstown, Bel Air, importantly, Cecil County, Aberdeen, Centerville. I did some reference checking, got all good reports from there. We've had some back and forth over an engagement with these folks. They're proposing to do our annual audit as well as our additional audit that's required because of our receipt of federal funds for a fee of $15,500, which strikes me as very reasonable compared to certainly what I was expected and braced for. We've got an engagement letter that we're prepared to sign. I don't see anything in the proposal that they sent that caused me any concern. We went back and asked them to amend it so that they put in writing that there would be an exit meeting with the full board. They did that quickly and would have been doing that anyway. So far, so good. They've been very cooperative. So I would move that we execute the engagement letter with SB and Company and get our ducks in a row. We need to do that quickly because the pre-work with respect to the audit really begins now. And the engagement that we're talking about embarking on here would require that they deliver a final report to us no later than September 15th. We've got to have that so that we can forward it to the county, as we are a component unit of the reporting that they have to do. It will probably help us and be beneficial that they're also doing the county's work. So with that said, Carl, I would move that we accept the engagement with SB.
Okay, if we can get a second, then we'll open it for questions. Do we have a second to Chick's
Joe
motion?
Brandt, I second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second to extend the engagement letter to for auditing our books. Questions for Chick? Comments? Anybody?
Chick, how does this total expenditure kind of match up with what we paid in the past?
It's very close. I don't remember the exact number, but it's virtually the same.
The last audit with Wyatt Cronin was 13.5, so it's close.
I just didn't want to go without a question, that's all.
That's good. Good question.
Matt, you beat
Thank
me to the same question, so good question.
Sounds like he's the only one out there.
Okay, hearing no more questions. Tony, please take the vote.
Carl,
I vote aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Mario,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Chick,
Aye.
Martha,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Jim. If you're trying to talk, Jim, you're on mute. We'll just say he abstained. Dave,
Aye.
Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you. I know Chick and Tony have been working together on that to make sure that we have our ducks in a row and that we're now signed and delivered. FY23 proposed budget. Chick?
So Tony, I'll put this up. I don't know. Yeah, you might want to make that a little bigger. So our proposed budget, hopefully you all have this on screens where you could make it easy to read. The proposed budget is in the first column or far left. What I would say from a very high level, really no big material changes in our expected results compared to the budget that we put together last year. As you go through this column by column, what you see in the top section with revenue is that, again, much of our revenue and support will come from the annual payment that we receive from MTPM. by formula for next year, that's $415,000 and change. So that will be the largest portion of our income. We'll have some other miscellaneous income. We have budgeted some grant revenue that we know about in there. So that's sort of funds coming in. And then when you look through the expenses, the totals of those are not materially different than where we are. The things that have changed is obviously we have brought Jen on board. So there's some additional funds in there to reflect our arrangement with her part-time employment. We have reclassified the expenses that we have related to Steve's consulting and have him now listed as included in the totals for professional other. And our allocation for some repairs and stabilization expense, et cetera, based on things we've talked about, we've increased that by $20,000 compared to the budget last year. The rest of the stuff is really sort of very routine and recurring. I don't know of any reason why it shouldn't be that way. We do have a contingency for an additional $10,000 in expenses for things that are unforeseen. We've been doing that in the past few years and have that built into this budget as well. So all said and done, we would expect for next year to have total revenues of $464,000. That compares to $451 for this year. And our operating all-in expenses would be $398,000 according to this plan. And we would finish with a surplus of just over $65,000. When you compare that to the budget that we worked from for this previous year, our anticipated surplus was $66,000. As I said earlier, we prepare these budgets to make sure we kind of account for everything that might come our way on an actual basis, and just through good sort of belt tightening and expense management, we generally beat these numbers. We expect to do that this year and finish somewhere around 114,000. And if you look on the bottom right-hand corner of those pages, you can see we've had years where our year-end surplus was 127-ish or so. And we think that should pretty much follow suit unless we run into things that are unanticipated as the year goes on. This budget is an important component of the audit that has to get done. It goes in, becomes sort of a part of a management discussion and lends itself to the test that has to be made as to our future viability. Having thought about all that and looked at what we have in front of us, where we are in terms of cash position and the operating plan that we have for next year, I certainly don't think we'll have any trouble meeting the questions that will be asked about whether or not we're viable as a going concern.
Remind the board before we'll open it up to questions. It's a proposed budget, goes into effect July 1, 2022. With that, and again, any actions associated with for procurement within the regs governing board approval for certain procurement items or any other changes, you get a chance to review that on a monthly basis or sooner if need be, and with it. So this is a proposed budget. And then as we do every year, we monitor it each month. Any questions for Chick?
I didn't have any.
Jim,
I got
welcome.
one.
Good to hear you, Jim.
I couldn't find the mute button.
Chick, I have one question, and it has to do with revenues. I know that this developers agreement we have kind of over the years, and as he pays in, takes down a certain amount of acreage. Where are we kind of with that equation? Like, are we, once we kind of get phase 2 squared away, I mean, are we looking at a significant revenue bump, or are we looking at essentially flat?
I'll let, maybe Tony's got those numbers handy to speak to that specifically, but I think the short answer to that is the developer at this hour has earned enough credits to take down the remainder of the property, should all the other conditions of the contract be met.
Mhm.
So at that point, when the contract, when the rest of the acreage is taken down, then his obligation to continue to make these support payments is no longer. So until he takes the land down, he's got to continue to make these annual payments.
Correct.
But he's got enough credits in the bank, so to speak, at this point to take the remainder of the land if he chose to do that. There's,
Mhm.
he's got some
Okay,
other
thank you.
hurdles with, he's got some other hurdles with us he would have to clear. But that's kind of where we stand.
Matt, just to add to Chick's comment, you will remember as well as the rest of the board will remember, the proposed plan for phase 2 has to be accepted by the board. Nothing can occur until the BDC accepts it, just like we did. If you remember, we accepted the phase 1 plan, MRP as the contractor. That same thing would have to occur with phase 2.
Thank you.
And it's also, I mean, if we remember, the phase 1 plan came into conversation really in like 2019, and between local approvals and the process for everything, and then the entitlement timeframe, the land didn't transfer till last year. So it's a process, and ultimately it's not until until the land actually transfers and they take title, that's when the condition is met, that he has paid for the remaining acreage. And so that's when the payments could cease.
Any other questions on the proposed FY23 budget?
Carl, I got just a quick clarification question. I think Chick answered this, but I may have misheard it or not heard it. The management fee, that's 0 because that's Steve.
Is now down in professional fees other.
Oh, sorry, I did miss it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Chick on the proposed budget? Okay, Frazier, Chick, you'll make a motion to adopt the FY23 budget, please.
I do.
Okay, do we have a second to Chick's motion?
I'll second it, Mario.
Thank you, Mario. We're going to call the roll, Tony, to adopt the proposed FY23 budget.
Carl,
I vote aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Mario,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Chick,
Aye.
Martha,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Chick, I know you work with Tony and Kim on the finances. I appreciate your stewardness of our finances, and appreciate the hard work.
I'm glad to do it. In all honesty, Carl, I need to say, Tony made this very easy. And where we used to go through draft of this, it's been fun to watch her get comfortable with this part of the process, and she's done a great job with it.
Well, good.
Thank you, Chick.
But we all know Tony is supposed to make things easier. So Tony can-
I try.
I just want to acknowledge Mayor Coos joined us and County Executive Hornberger joined us. So welcome. We're pleased to have you on the call this afternoon. We're now into committee reports. Joe.
Tome School report. We're basically in a holding pattern. Tony is still awaiting approval of the costs that we submitted for the match. And we're waiting on something from the contractor, right?
Yes, I'm waiting for a revised proposal.
That's it.
They wanted to, as we mentioned before, they wanted to split into 2 different tasks. So that way they could do the closure and then the repairs. I know they had to do a site visit, which they did, but I'm not sure what's taking them so long to get a revised proposal. So I've tried, we've been playing phone tag for about a week now. So I'm hoping that we're able to get in touch with each other this week and they can kind of give me an update as to what's going on and why it's taking so long. Because the problem is, if we would try and go with an alternative contractor, we'd have to resubmit the process through MHT because they have to approve the contractor.
Tony,
Right.
put the agenda back up, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Joe? Are you
No,
done?
that was it.
Okay. Any questions for Joe on Tony on this Tome School report? Mario, you tried to get it to us, but the environmental report, Mario?
Yep, let's be quick. So I can continue to have positive news on the railroad embankment culvert repair, thankfully. Tony's actually meeting with the engineer and the contractor on Friday. They're going to do a walkover. And then next week we'll be mobilizing to actually do the work. Instead of talking about it, we're actually going to start doing the work. So that's the good news. Landfill monitoring is the same old. We're, doing our monitoring, and so far nothing bad to report. So that's good. And solar opportunities, I know I've kind of dropped the ball a little bit on that, except that I did spend some time starting to brainstorm what we think an expression of interest will look like. I will soon get together with Tony and Dave Rudolph, and we'll try to hash that out a little bit more, and then bring it back to you folks for approval and for your input and approval. No action items at this point in time.
Okay.
Carl, I have a quick question for Mario. This is Bridget. I received a call from Pat Hudson. He is a gentleman that has been working on oyster fisheries and farms, and he has a lot of contacts in the solar world to help operate his businesses. And he wants to be put in contact with somebody from Bainbridge, not only to discuss solar opportunities for Bainbridge themselves, but also with the developer. I have an email ready to send out of introduction. Mario, would you like me to have you on that as well as Tony?
I think go to Tony, and Tony can loop me in when she thinks it's important. I'm happy to be involved. Don't get me wrong, but I think just to keep things clean, it's probably better to keep it with just Tony.
Okay, sounds good.
And
Thank
I
you.
have, oh, sorry, Carl.
Bridget, Mr. Hudson has contacted me as well but he has identified a business representative. Is that true with you as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then that's fine. Yeah, I would agree with Mario. Send it to Tony and she'll get it to the right people.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Bridget.
Anything else for the environmental committee? Thank you, and it's good news, Mario. We always like when action is going to take place, so that's good. We're going to move on now, and we've changed this last month's meeting. The executive director's report. You have the items on the screen that she's going to discuss. Tony.
So the groundbreaking ceremony was last month. I'll say personally, I think it was a wonderful day. Any board members that were there, if you'd like to make any comments for the day, it could have been a little warmer, but I suppose we couldn't have sunshine and warmth. We can only pick one or the other. I think folks were really excited about seeing the site and getting to go out. I was very happy with how many individuals we had from the past that were involved, that were able to come back and see, our Navy contacts, our state contacts. The feedback I got from the governor's office was they were extremely happy. I know our development team was very happy. So it was an extremely successful day. I think there was great coverage. The developers were super happy with how all of the local regional media covered the event. So I think it was all very positive. And I don't know if anyone has anything that they want to add for the day, if there were any cool connections or conversations that were had.
I'll just report that any organization or any event or any conversation I have with anybody who knows I'm associated with the BDC has congratulated the BDC and all for things going on Bainbridge, all positive news, no negative news, and so forth. So I'm very pleased that people see it as a plus. With that, I know there were several of you who were there as well. I just thought I told Reed, class act. It was just a first class act and a great way to raise the flag and move forward.
I have one item. This is David. I thought it was very commendable that they invited the Bainbridge Historical Group to be present. I think they greatly appreciated the opportunity.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Dave. Thank you. And we got our local WAVE veteran, a little TV time on Channel 2 News out of Baltimore. So that was good. That was Rhonda Bunn. Rona Bunn. That's who that was. Okay, Tony.
Moving on to phase one. So site work is going very well. At this point, we are so far into mass grading that you can't get around the site because of how high the cut and fills are. The environmental snags that we ran into have all been managed. They've all had formal regulatory closure, so there's no issues with that. They have mobilized the cement mixing operations, which will be at the northern end of the site. We were granted a permit for a groundwater well, which I think some folks, because there is a groundwater restriction on the site, there was some confusion at being able to have a well on site, but the restriction is pertaining to drinking water. It's not pertaining to non-potable uses. So use for a well is applicable. And of course, as usual, Mark Mank is the one that ironed all of that out with the county, because when you see that there's a groundwater restriction, you're obviously not going to issue a well permit, but we were able to get some background documents that showed that it was only for drinking water purposes. So that's good. They'll be able to start the cement and the concrete work on the first building. They're expecting in the next 2 to 3 weeks to start that. There is significant interest in prospects for several of the buildings. There are some particular folks interested in building A. We've been working with Commerce on some interest in building B and then building C as well. The revised package for Basin 1, that high hazard dam, everything has been submitted to MDE, all of the engineering. So that's under review for reclassification of that. Once that's reclassified and all those permits are issued, then they'll be able to start work on parcel D. I'm not liberty to share who any interested tenants are, but it's a wide range. It's pretty interesting. Kind of going into phase, unless anyone has any questions on phase one.
I just want to affirm, I already know the answer to this, but Mayor Coos and Town Administrator Rinkerman, you're fully informed on the proposal on the work on stormwater on Site D. Tony's Vicky's saying yes.
Yeah.
Bob, you're aware? Okay, very good.
So moving into phase two, we had a potential prospect interested. It is a salmon farmer from Norway. They've been in contact with the state and the county, and I believe the town as well. We had a large number of folks meet on site. They were really looking at either phase one or phase two. Their building size does not provide them space in phase one. They really have a square of a building, so they couldn't fit in any of the parcels that are already approved and engineered. We're working with Reed and Ken are working with their engineers, Bowler and GW Stevens, on where they could potentially fit in phase two. It is looking like if you go south on the site, east of Bainbridge Boulevard, so on the interior, or Commodore is what it will ultimately be. That is where they're looking. So more of the interior in the site. It's a really neat operation. It's very state of the art. They do their location determination is quite particular, specifically because of water needs. They're not able to get a draw in most locations that they need, whereas Artesian has such high access with the Susquehanna River and their good relationship with the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, that they've already had conversations about high increases in the permit if it would be needed. They won't give an allocation just to give an allocation, but if this tenant were to come to Bainbridge, that they wouldn't have any issues in increasing the permit. And there's no increase there's no real increased work to Artesian because they actually have their own water treatment facilities on their actual parcel. So it's not something that would cause a significant issue with any of the other infrastructure that they're already working on Bainbridge. So I know everyone's really trying to make it work. It's a pretty cool use. It was nice for us to learn a lot about it. Steve, I don't know if you have any comments or Tom, if you have anything you want to add about the tenant.
Tony, is this public information?
I mean,
No,
I'm not going to say the name.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put it out there just yet. Carl, I think that, we have a long way to go with this group. Technology that they're utilizing was developed at the University of Maryland's Institute for Marine and Environmental Technology. It's been several years in development, this relationship, but they have another facility that they're working on over on the Eastern Shore in Federalsburg. Medco is working on a pretty creative tax-exempt financing proposal for that facility, and there'd be one applied to this as well. But it is one that employs the latest in terms of wastewater treatment technology, feeding, and genetic research application. So it's a pretty cool aquaculture manufacturing operation that we're really, really hopeful that we can bring this all to bear. And the timing is such that the market's just gone sky high for this type of product because we're onshoring food production capability. So the domestic demand as well as global demand for this product is really, really ever increasing. But yeah, I wouldn't get ahead of ourselves because it seems to me, from what I know, is there still might be some acquisition activity required. So we wouldn't want to, upset the market dynamics at this point. So it's still a little early.
I would say that I know that the town is well aware of it, and I know the county economic development is aware of it. And obviously, Tom with Medco is aware of it, and so forth. But I'm going to ask, as a BDC, we are not in the forefront on this. It's good information to give you the example of some of the interest on the site. I'm not saying don't tell anybody, but don't tell anybody, please. Let other people be the ones who would share this. And as Tom said, there's ways to go yet.
I have a quick question on this. I know we at Commerce always have to abide by non-disclosure statements or contracts or agreements. Has the board ever, or maybe Root can help us with that? Is there something that is in place with the board on such situations currently?
I'm not sure that all the documents I have, there is no confidentiality document.
Yeah, I think I've never seen anything. I'm not sure that our board has ever signed anything. The only standing policy we have is anything that's discussed in closed session needs to stay in closed session. It should not be shared outside of the board.
Okay, thank you.
I would just say that typically, Bridget, the board is not, as Tom said, we don't hear the names of, Reed does not tell us who he's entertaining for phase one on those sites. We're not aware of those. And with it, and typically, I can tell you as chair of the board, I'm thrilled that people are interested, and I want other people to get all the credit for it. And when it's public, we'll thank them and shake their hands and welcome them as well. But we're going to let other people share the good news as it develops on that. Infrastructure, Tony.
Well, one other thing with phase two, the Navy, they are mobilizing this week to do some additional sampling in the phase two area. So that's the only other thing for, and we will be re-engaging with Ken on phase 2.
Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you want to make any comments? Okay, he shook his head no. Okay, very good. Infrastructure.
The work on 222 was completed. The road was reopened. As far as I know, everything went very smoothly. We have ironed out the issues in the water extension. I think we had mentioned before that there was some confusion in where the construction easement actually lied, and it looked like it was a crossover with State Highway. So we bumped that in the line slightly internal, a little more still within that existing easement, but we just had to confirm because that's right on 276, and we obviously know that the landfills are there. We needed to confirm with our environmental contractor and with MDE that there weren't going to be any issues of that line getting too close in proximity, that it was going to cause any issues with the membrane of the landfill or any of the vents. So all of those have been ironed out. We don't have any issues with that. So they're able to move forward now with fully getting into the water line, because it was supposed to start from the southern end and move up. But what they've done is they've started on the northern end and moved down. So that way they weren't losing time while they were trying to get all of that taken care of. And then they're fully mass grading the roads as well while they're mass grading the buildings.
Well, Mayor Coos, I drove up Fort Hill the other day for the first time. Looks pretty good going up there. He can't even tell anything was done.
I rather enjoyed it too. I did, was that, now that you mentioned, I'm kind of curious about what the, looks like a lane has been reactivated as you go around the curve toward the top of the hill.
I'm not sure. I don't remember that, but
It looks like at some point in time there was an entry because there is a curb cut. And
oh, okay.
now it looks like it's actually activated.
What do you mean by a lane was reactivated?
No, just an entry into the Bainbridge property.
Oh,
Yeah,
in
I
the
think he's talking
222?
about where the wastewater line came in.
Possibly, I
Okay,
don't know.
they've widened that gate, Tony.
Yes,
going in
okay,
there.
yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, that is the wastewater line.
But is
Sorry, I
it,
thought you meant the main 222 entrance. Gotcha.
So I didn't know if you were using it as a vehicular entrance for something, or
It was a construction entrance.
I see.
Tony, has that fence been reinstalled there?
I'm not sure if if the permanent fence has been reinstalled yet. I know that they were doing temporary fencing by the water line and by the sewer line.
Okay, we just need to
It's
double.
pretty open to me.
Yeah, it was open. That's what I thought too when I went up there, Bob. Now I know what you're talking about. Tony, we need to check that, make sure that that property is secure. I'm with that.
Other than
Anything,
that, everything's great.
anything else on infrastructure, Tony?
No, but I will say, because of the open fencing, there is a patrolman that they hired, they planned on having a patrolman down there anyways, because they have a lot of very expensive construction material that's being staged at 222. So there is a vehicle that is posted there at all times. Granted, I know obviously someone's not there at night, but they just finished stabilizing all of that last week. So I'll touch base with them on the reinstallation of that fence.
I'm glad you mentioned, I believe it's a gentleman all the time who monitors who comes in and out of the property. That's a
Yeah,
good
they
point.
stopped me the other day.
Yeah, but they stopped me. Yeah. Okay, Tony, let's proceed.
So SB 541, that is the legislation that created the amendment that created the Port of Deposit Historic Park, which includes Tome School and potentially up to 100 acres. We have been in contact with DNR to follow whatever processes and protocol are going to be required within the legislation. Secretary of DNR, Jeannie Hadaway Riccio, she has appointed me on the task force, the advisory committee, I expect that we'll probably be engaged over the next month or two to start evaluating how, how this would actually work and the viability and the feasibility of it. The fiscal note, the revised fiscal and policy note was released. If, I'm happy to send that out to board members if they would like to read through it. But, as we've said, we're going to comply with whatever is required by the BDC and be as
Tony,
have as smooth a process as possible.
Tony, am I correct that the board has received the enrolled bill?
Yes,
Okay, they need to get the revised fiscal note as well.
Yes, I would definitely like to have that, please.
Yeah.
Ditto.
I will send that out as soon as we are done.
Okay, we're very pleased that the secretary invited Tony to serve as a member of that task force. Steve will also be attending those meetings to support Tony and to also to be a backup. So we're pleased with that. Okay, new business, Tony.
I'm going to bring up, I believe we have some board members that were probably around. I wish I should have had these on two different pages. I think we had some board members that were around when we initially contracted with someone on a new logo. We ended up not moving forward with the new logo because there were a few board members that didn't want to let go of the original logo, which had the Tome School cupola on it. I think it was kind of split in letting go of that vision for the BDC just because the cupola is no longer there, and trying to find something a little more simple, a little more modern. With all of the marketing that goes on now for the project, it has made it very difficult to have a logo that is so old, and the original version of the logo we have is actually a scanned in PDF that has been resaved as a JPEG, so it doesn't translate very well. And I thought it might be a good time to evaluate updating the logo, something simple. So we've already paid for all of this work. It's just a matter of which one that we would want to finalize, and then get it in various files and formats. So I picked a couple that were fairly simple. The executive committee did go through all of the logos. Some of them were very extensive and some of them were quite simple. So we've got this option 1 and 2. This is supposed to symbolize like the bridge. And then these are basically a similar format. It's just different styles. So ultimately it's up to everyone's feedback.
Okay, Tony, I would like, because the board's seeing this for the first time, I'd like you to number these, send them out to the board, including the ex officio members of the board, and ask them, give them an opportunity to ask questions, to give their opinion, and so forth. Rank their top 2, rank one number 1 and 1, okay, or whatever. I don't want to rush this through because it's the first time they've seen it. I'd like them to have an opportunity to look at it a little bit. So can you
Okay.
reformat it to list it with a number
Mhm.
or some identification
Yes.
with that? Does anybody have any questions for Tony about logos?
Tony, you think you can do that in like a survey format so you get some kind of a ranking out of it?
I can create like a Google survey.
That's what I was thinking. It might make your life easier, and you might want to do it in a ranking such way too.
Yes.
Kind of like New York state voting.
Yes, I can do that.
Any other questions
Good
for
idea.
folks? I appreciate that. I will tell you, the executive committee looked at them and said, we're not touching this, give it to the board. Okay. I'm stupid, but I'm not crazy. We're going to let everybody have a shot at this on that. Okay, Tony, the lease.
So the last thing is Kyocera, the Kyocera lease. It would be a new lease for a new machine. Currently, we have Xerox. Our lease is up this year. And so we're looking at replacing the machine. I'll be honest, the Xerox machines we've had have just been problem after problem. The machine we have now, it's a 5-year lease, and within the 5 years that we've had it, it's become so outdated that the software, it doesn't support the software updates. And Jen and I can't really scan anything on a good format. We have to scan to a USB and then take it to our computer. So it doesn't scan to email, it won't scan to a drive or anything. And we've had folks come out and look at the machine. So luckily we were able to get some proposals. We did look at a few different proposals from Kyocera. Because we've had the history with Xerox, and truthfully, it hasn't just been issues with the machine, it's also issues with the tech support. It's practically impossible to get someone out there, and this isn't just a COVID thing, this was before COVID. You couldn't get someone, and when they would be scheduled, a lot of times they wouldn't show up, or they'd show up hours late. So I actually reached out to a couple different offices, and several of them use Kyocera, and they really were happy with it. So Jen and I went over the proposals with them. We felt like this was the best option in terms of lease payment and pricing. What this contract offers is they do scaled color printing. Whereas if we print something, if I print this agenda and it has one word in color, Xerox charges us for a whole color page. Whereas Kyocera, they do 4 different levels. So you're not paying, because color printing is like 4 times as much as black and white printing. So it gauges how much color is actually on the page, and then you're charged on a scale, which is pretty neat, I think. Because there are a lot of things that we'll print an email and the only thing on there that's in color is the email address, yet you're getting charged for a color page. So I would like to present this to the board for their approval so that we can get a new lease signed and then have the machines switched out.
Tony, talk a little bit about the cost. How much does it cost? What are we approving?
The cost is $234 a month, plus the cost of printing, which is a couple cents per page, depending on if you're printing black and white or color.
This Carlos Mario, I'm very supportive of this. You pretty much had me at hello. My only comment I will say is we just approved a budget, and the budget amount for copier rental is just a tad bit less than, it's at 225 versus the 234. It's only a little bit of money. I just want to make sure we're doing things right.
We got plenty of room for this.
That's what I figured as much, but I just wanted to point that out.
Tony, as I look at this, the only thing that caught my eyes is it's a 60-month term.
Yes.
Do they offer shorter terms?
Yeah, good question.
This machine will probably be obsolete, and you'll have the same feelings about it that you have about the current one. 5 years from now.
My understanding was a shorter lease. If you do a shorter lease, you have a significantly higher rate, but I can confirm that with them. I can follow up with them and find out any other revised. Every lease that we've ever had has always been a 5-year lease, but I can certainly follow up with them.
Well, so to follow up on Chick's question, I agree. If you do find out that it's becoming obsolete, do we have the ability to modify things or complain or something?
So what I felt was very confusing with Xerox was, how can you charge us for a machine that isn't functioning? And the gentleman that we spoke with at Kyocera said the exact same thing, that it is their policy that the machine needs to be able to comply with all the functions that it offers when you originally signed the lease. So whether that's coming out and putting in some form of new technology in it, if it's hardware updates, firmware updates, software updates.
That's on them.
Right. Oh, yes. Yeah. Full maintenance is included with that. Any updates that's needed, any new hardware that's needed, which is not the case for Xerox. They offer tech support, and they will offer something if a machine malfunctions, but and Jen was there when we were there. They basically told Lyle, our IT guys, like, yeah, it's just old. So you're just gonna have to deal with it until you can get a new one. Kind of silly.
My other comment I will make is, and this is just me being a little bit of a lawyer, that the lease is governed by the laws of the state of Iowa and that we consent to jurisdiction of venue of federal and state courts in Iowa. If we do have a problem, I don't think we want to go to Iowa. Is there any way we can cross that out and make that Maryland? I mean, I do that all the time. I do that all the time
He's
in my
right.
contracts.
I can ask.
You can try.
Yeah. All right. Chick's right. You can.
I don't think, I think we ought to approve this, but I think Mary makes a good suggestion. And in your final negotiations on this, you might ask them what happens if we become unhappy with the machine in years 3 or 4. Do we have an opportunity to roll this lease into a new one? And
We do.
And so that's good, and that's a good out if you have problems with it.
Yeah, we can actually switch the machine at any time if we want. If it's an increased charge, if it's a more expensive machine, there's going to be a change in the lease payment. But yes, we can. That's one of the things that frustrates me so much about the Xerox machine. That was a new machine. We were in the same 5-year lease. We rolled over and got a new, that was supposed to be the new updated machine. And that one this machine we have is worse than the old one that we had by far.
Is this a request within our procurement guidelines?
Yeah, I can't approve it because it's more than
No, I didn't mean,
$2,500.
I don't mean that. Do there need to be competitive bids? You know?
Not if it's under 5,000.
Okay.
This is Mary. I'll move for approval of the lease subject to, maybe changing the language a little bit and also making Daggone sure we have the ability to have recourse if we're not happy with its performance.
Okay.
And also the question, you already answered the question about 5 years versus other. Anybody else have any suggestions? Well, wait a minute. Mario's made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, more discussion?
I have a question. This is David. Tony, is there a reason why this has to be done this month? That's so many questions people are asking.
Can you say that again, Dave?
Is there a reason why a final decision has to be made today? So many questions.
You're breaking up.
Jim
wanted to know
Reynolds.
if- he wanted to know if there's
Jim Reynolds, you got to mute your phone.
Tony, what he asks is, do we have to make a decision this month at this meeting, considering the number of questions that have been asked? That was Dave's question.
We don't have to. We were just trying to get a new machine. We spent a couple weeks going through the process. Ideally, we were just trying to get a new machine as quickly as possible while following the process, because we have one that doesn't work well, basically. So we're kind of stuck with a malfunctioning machine.
That probably answers your question. We don't need to be.
And we're paying for it, which is the worst part. And
Tony,
Kyocera is willing to, so our lease actually doesn't end till December, but Kyocera will buy out your existing lease because we're a state entity. So they will pay off the remaining balance of our lease, and then they handle the removal of the machine and the input of the new machine.
I still stand behind my motion.
I second the motion.
Chick
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Chick seconded it.
Yeah.
Tony, I really, the thing that Mario said, just sort of an afterthought, pending answers to, and he cited a couple of the questions and so forth.
Right.
I think the board does need to hear some additional follow-up that will satisfy the board's concerns about the answers to those questions as to whether we move forward or not. I'm a little bit hesitant to approve it and then
We
get
can,
into
we
a
can wait
situation.
another, I
Well,
mean,
wait, wait a minute. And then get into a situation where we don't like an answer and with that. So I'm going to ask Mario, will you withdraw your motion pending new information?
Absolutely.
Chick?
Sure. Yes.
Hey, Tony, I would like you to put together a more formal report to the board on this, including things that you just shared with us about when the Xerox lease runs out,
okay,
so forth. I know this doesn't trigger the procurement, but I just think this conversation is not as cut and dry as I would hope it would be on this, okay?
yeah, that, not a problem at all.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for your patience and
Thank you.
inquiry. Any public comments today? Do we have anybody publicly on here, Tony?
We do not.
Okay. You have a copy of, that you received from Tony of a motion to go into a closed session. Need somebody to make that motion by reading it. And I should say, we will not, Roop, you correct me if I'm wrong, we will not come back into public session after the closed session. We will adjourn the meeting from the closed session and we will not come back. Roop, do I need to adjourn the public meeting?
Not until October are we gonna go into, because they recommend, the compliance board recommends that you don't do, you have a public meeting, yeah, then you go to a closed meeting and then you have a public meeting just to say that you are ending a meeting. But we don't have to do that until we hear from the trainer that's
Okay,
coming in
Very-
June. Yeah,
very good.
thank you.
Okay, dude, can I have a motion, please?
I'll move that we enter into closed session for the purpose of discussing an open bid and contract prior to award and the investment of public funds.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Call the roll, Tony.
Carl,
Yes. Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Mario,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Chick,
Aye.
Martha,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Jim, Dave,
Aye.
Okay. Never mind. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the executive session agenda, please?
So
moved.
move.
Have a second?
I'll second Mario.
Thank you very much. Tony, call the roll.
Carl,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Mario,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Chick,
Aye.
Martha,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Jim, Dave.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, Tony's going to bring this up to date, but I'm going to ask the executive committee, I may ask you for a follow-up to that, but under new business, Tony?
So there's two things to discuss today. Oh, we need to hold on a minute. I need to stop recording.
Right.
So I will cut that out.